Welcome to the Catalyst for Growth podcast, a place where we talk about everything under the sun regarding the journey of the professional salesperson. Welcome the host of the C4G Sales Success podcast, John Kalunas II. Take it away, big guy.
All right, here we go. This is podcast number 2. Kevin, start us off.
Yeah, well, good day, everybody. Glad you took time out of your hectic, busy day to be able to listen to our podcast. But today is going to be a particularly impactful podcast to listen to. A few of the things that we think about in our podcast is how do we give back? How do we serve? How do we help other people grow their business? And we always want to give them at least one actionable idea, something that we can transfer from us to you that you can actually implement day one to help impact your life. And today's topic, as we kind of talked about on the last podcast, is the IQL process. And that stands for Impact Your Quality of Life. As we've mentioned,
Actually, let me correct you. It's increase your quality of life.
Oh, I haven't.
And what you're doing is you're reading the impact form.
Yes, I'm looking at the. Well, thank you. You see, that's the detail orientation that John has on.
First of all, if anybody thinks I'm detail oriented, they're cringing right now.
But I am looking at the impact analysis form, and that actually gets us to the takeaway for the day. But I'll touch on that in just a second. The IQL process, increase your quality of life, is a process that John developed years and years ago that he's used with lots of businesses like yourself, any type of business owner at all. It doesn't have to be financial services. It's just that's what we're mostly involved in with RIAs and financial advisors. But we've used this in all kinds of industries. I think the big takeaway from a credibility standpoint is to know that this process, this practice management process that we use to help businesses grow, won the Wealthy Award in 2023. It was the winner. Regal Financial was the actual winner if you look it up. Increase Your Quality of Life program is what it was for. But it's rated as the #1 practice management program for businesses with employees with less than 1,000 employees. So that is quite an amazing award. John and Lee were out in New York getting that. Might want to make a comment on how that award went that day. That was an interesting story to maybe chime in before we talk about it.
Yeah, we went out with Lee Cole, who's one of our advisor advocates. And first of all, the IQL process was developed by Don Carlson and myself years ago. And the milestone of is what Kevin's referring to as the Wealthies, where we won the best practice management program and development program of firms with 1,000 or less employees and advisors. And we went out to New York, and we were sitting way back in the room. We were sitting at table 76 in New York City, and I needed my Zeiss or my binoculars to find the front of the room. And it's black tie, and they call our name. I'm telling everybody at the table that we're sitting in the back. There's no chance we're going to win, so we're having a cocktail, had dinner, we're screwing around, and met these guys from from Chicago, and they had a partner in New York City, so they were sitting there, and we were just yucking it up. Didn't know these guys, but we ended up becoming friends, and they're good quality guys. And their category comes up, and they win. And so now my whole thought process at table 76 can't win. And I'm feeling like a schmuck now because I just don't think we're going to be able to pull it off. And lo and behold, when our category came up, we won. And we had to walk up to the front of the room, and Lee and I walked up. And as I'm going up the stairs to the stage, my tuxedo pants, the side buckle falls on the floor. So I'm sitting there holding up my pants, looking at Cole like, please save me, grab this award. My britches are going to fall down in New York City. So I'm completely just disheveled, man. I'm trying to keep my shirt and my pants up on my butt, and Cole's looking at me like, "What are you doing? This is like the greatest moment of your life. All the stuff that you and Carlson and the team and Lee's real important in the IQL process at Regal. All the stuff we worked for, you've made it, man." And I'm like, "Man, I just want to get off stage and get some twine for my britches." So it was a great night. My wife was there to share it with me, and then Sarah Cole too. So it was a special night, and a night that we couldn't bring the whole team. Don Carlson should have easily been there too. We just couldn't bring the whole team because we only had 4 spots. But there was over 700-800 people there. They got to see us to win the award, and then obviously all of the press afterwards. So and all the photos, my pants are on. And I actually sort of did a MacGyver and got them all hitched up before the official photos were taken in front of the green screen.
I could just imagine if you didn't feel that piece pop off and you were to hold the trophy up over your head.
Well, the funny thing is I'm walking upstairs and I look and I see I hear the clink, and I look down and I see a buckle, and I go, that looks sort of familiar. And all of a sudden my pants start coming. I'm like, oh, that's my tuxedo, the side on the buckle on the side of your pants for your waist. It just fell completely off.
The typical self-made wardrobe malfunction that all stars like to have.
Yeah, it looks a lot better probably on an attractive actress than a fat financial planner. Yeah. But yeah, it was an eventful night for more than one reason.
That's exciting though. So anyway,
well, let's go back and talk a little bit about the genesis of IQL, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. But before we do, I want you to go there. We're going to go there next, but I want to talk about what their takeaway is today.
Okay.
We have a mission of helping people reach their goals and objectives like you. And what we want to know is what your dream is that you're trying to accomplish. And then what we're trying to figure out is this. This is the key point for today. We want to try to isolate not just the symptoms that of the problems that are stopping you from getting where you're going, but we want to get down to the core issues. We usually find if we can find what the core impediments are that are stopping you from reaching your goals and your dreams, then they will also resolve a whole lot of symptoms. It's part of the secret of the IQL process.
I think most advisors focus on the symptoms and not the core issues. So we want you to dig a little deep, and we'll challenge you on these heartburn or headache issues.
That's right. So on our website, if you go to Catalyst, spelled out the numeral 4, and then spell out grow, Catalyst, the numeral 4, growth.org, you'll go to our website and you'll find on there the impact analysis form for IQL. And what we're going to challenge you today is when we're done talking about this process, is that you would go to our website, download this form, and there's questions on this form like what's missing in your life and business right now? If you could change just one thing right now, what would it be? What other problems would be resolved by fixing this one thing? That's the symptoms of fixing your core problems. How important is this to you? And then lastly, if you never took the necessary steps or actions to resolve this one thing, how would you feel about it 1 year from now looking back? And then under there's a spot for you to write your top 3 heartburn or headache issues. We challenge you to get that form, download it, think about your dream of where you're trying to get to, and align it with those questions. Get those top 3 heartburn issues, get them to us. You'll see how to do it right on the form. And then we will contact you or potentially create a proposal to talk about what we can do to help you surpass those core problems, solve all those symptoms, and ideally be able to look back a year from now or maybe sooner and see how we impacted your business to help you get to your dreams. So now let's turn it back over to John, because you and Don developed IQL. I came into the story a lot later. Maybe you could talk about the process itself, the genesis of it. And then in the second part of the podcast, let's talk about some actual case studies where we've helped people grow their business. How's that sound?
Excellent. Love it.
Good.
IQL, increase your quality of life. That year is the most important thing. This thing is all customized around the advisor, right? Or the wholesaler. And what we want to do is we want to focus in on you individually. We have a process, right? But we want to customize that process for you. And I think a lot of teaching and a lot of mentoring and programs have a system that they try to teach you, and they don't look at your skill sets. They just tell you to do it, and they push you to that. That's not what this does. this was sort of the genesis of this was that Don Carlson and I were sitting through a wholesaler presentation, and it wasn't a particularly good one. And I get annoyed when, and I think a lot of senior advisors do. They stop listening to wholesalers. They stop working with people because they've heard it before. And quite often the message is given by someone who hasn't done it. And I always give this example. Kevin and I are both outdoorsmen. I don't want to learn to fire a gun from someone who's not fired a gun, and they just give you a manual and say, go get them, Tiger, or I heard this works. I want to know from a marksman all the intricacies of how to fire a gun, how the safety and how things are going to work and how the process is going to be. I want real life experience. And so we were listening to this wholesaler. He says, we're going to take you to the next level. We're going to take you to the next level. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy doesn't know what level we're on, right? He has no clue about the size of our business. He knows what product our business holds, right? He's looking at his sheets, right, Kevin? Yeah. And he's saying, oh, they have X amount of million in this product. He knows nothing about our firm. He knows nothing about me. He doesn't know. He thinks we're local in Michigan and that we don't have a national footprint, right? Because he's only seeing his territory. And I'm saying he's going to take me to the next level.
And he's never done it himself, usually.
He doesn't even know what level he's on. He doesn't know what level I'm on. He doesn't. And I'm thinking like an elevator, and all of a sudden it hit me as like he's on floor 2, or I'm on floor 2, and he's on floor 9, and he's going to take me to the next level. He doesn't even know where I'm at. So I realize it's such a cliche in the industry. Take to the next level. We'll move you to the next level. That it's complete bullshit. And so I wanted to come up with something different that would be impactful. And we use the term impactful on purpose because I don't want to do anything that's not going to impact your life. If it's just going to move the needle a little bit, we're not your guys. If you really want to change your life and make like, it'll be one of those moments like, hey, when I worked with Catalyst or I met Kevin or I met Kalunas, that wow, they really stepped to the plate. They changed where I was going. That's the relationships I want to have. So the word increase your quality of life, is solely focused on you. But it's not a cliche, increase your quality of life. And it means different things to different people. So if you have a 60-year-old broker who's looking to possibly sell his practice, or he wants to spend more time with his grandchildren, it's different. His needs are different than that 30-year-old broker who's trying to do client acquisition. So that it's tailor-made for what anybody wants and where they want to go. And we say heartburn and headaches because if we can take away those things from you, and we want to give you 3 challenges. Number 1, if we can take away 1 of the 3, we're heroes to you. If we can take away 2, 3, you're going to put us in your personal, professional Mount Rushmore if we can move 3 impediments to your success. So we do that just to show you that we have resources and also that we want to zone and tone in on exactly what you want to do.
Yep. I'd also just to back up, because some people listening to this podcast maybe just being introduced to us for the very first time, and there's just a big void chasm between what you know about us and just meeting us. So we want to fill that void as quickly as possible with things that have to do with trust and for you to know that we know what we're talking about. I say that just to point out the fact that John and I both run retail practices. John's much bigger than me. In fact, John's RIA is in the top 10% of all RIAs in the United States. And John is also was on the hot list last year of 2023 as one of the top 100 all-star wealth professionals. So you're not listening to a couple of guys who don't do and haven't done what we're talking about. We do know what we're talking about, and we do what we're talking about right now. And John also talks about resources. It's important to know that if we find out what your problem and impediment is, well, what resources do you have behind us to help you? First, John and I have both been in the financial services industry and in sales and distribution since the late 80s. Seems like a long time ago. Now that's probably why we have a lot of references.
It's, you know what, it sounds like a long time ago. When you really think about it, it's flown by quick.
Yeah, the brevity of life is amazing. How fast time goes.
Kevin, did you just use the word brevity?
I did.
Yes. Holy, I am shocked. I've known you for 25 years. I've never heard you use the word brevity. Yeah. Oh, podcast is bringing out good things. Kevin's looking at a thesaurus when he's coming in here and taping these things.
Yeah. But the point is, in all that quick time and all that time period that went by so fast, John's built multiple businesses under, Regal Holdings. John is built and owns a registered investment advisor, a large one, and a broker dealer, the lion's share his own professional practice, a Regal Financial Group, all under Regal Holdings, and then we jointly own through myself and his wife Catalyst for Growth, which is our consulting firm. But all those resources and all those people and all that time behind us and being in practice today, not just telling you things to do that we're not doing. All those resources and all those people are at our disposal. All we got to know is what your problem is that you're trying to.
There's a lot of things that we run across in a practice that Kevin and I don't have the skill set to solve. The great thing is that we have the resources to do it.
Yeah.
When I look at a Bill Best or a Don Carlson or a Lee Cole, a Heather Chrisman, I mean, we're blessed to have talented people around us that can help you. So it's not just us. We're just sort of we're the pretty faces, Kevin, which is sort of a scary thought. If we're the pretty faces, we're in trouble. But we have a lot.
We're doing a podcast about
not TV.
Yeah.
If you would like to be a guest on the C4G podcast, please contact us at info@catalystforgrowth.org or 813-454-0557. Primetime players only. Bring your A game or don't contact us.
No, but we have the resources to help you grow. So, to me, it's real important that we leave the place better than we found it. And this industry is getting pushed regulatory pressures. You've got margin pressures. You have got market pressures, obviously, and you're seeing the industry distribution model change, going from broker dealer to RIA, and it's still crazy because there's so many assets on broker dealers.
Yeah, we just did a podcast. We did a presentation yesterday. I guess there was 28 or 30 different RIAs and firms that were signed up to listen in. I don't know how many made it exactly. But what we're talking about is that, the changes in the industry right now, specifically with artificial intelligence, with the internet, the regulatory changes that are coming on. I say that from a standpoint of bridging to this question, which is, maybe, John, you can talk about how the IQL process is really a game changer for businesses that have reached an inflection point. Their efficiencies just aren't getting them where they are. And with all this change, we've got to move forward to the next model.
Yeah, I found that in my own practice. You get going, you create a new process, or you hire a new person, you change what you're doing, you change your habits, you do something. Anyways, you make a positive change and you get to your business grows. And then you do it again and it grows a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you plateau. And in our industry, we have a lot of advisors that are plateau. I call them lifestyle reps, right? Where they built a business where they can sustain the lifestyle they want, and they don't want to go any further or get any bigger. And there's other people that do. They just don't know where to do it. And you've got to invest a lot of time, energy, and money into breaking those plateaus. And that's one of the things the IQL process can do. I can take a look at a business. I'm thinking of a young man, Carlos, out in San Dimas, California. He came to us through an IMO program, and he was really struggling with the program, and not because of his effort. Effort is one thing that we can't do for you. And I use this line all the time. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're not doing. And Carlos had a work ethic like no other. I mean, he came up here for a training session, and I was going home from the dinner, and he literally jumped in the front of my G-Wagon, and he's like, I'm not done. We need to go to a bar. You need to explain. I'm like, you need to get out of my car because I'm going home. I got a wife, and I've got to get out of here. And he's like, no. And he sort of kidnapped me in my own damn truck. And we laugh about it now. He's become sort of a brother of mine. I know about his family. He knows about mine. And he's taken his practice, and he had zero in assets. And in about 2.5 years, he's got about 30 million. And he does insurance and mortgages and some other things. So he's got a failing financial service practice has turned out to be a nice business, and he's continuously to grow. And as he plateaus, he has an IQL session with us. and we look at why he's there at a certain spot and why hasn't he grown. What is it? What's the new thing we have to add? What do we have to change? What do we have to improve on? What do we have to coach on? What do we have to move, right? And he's willing, and he comes to all of our training sessions that we do in Grand Rapids or Florida, and he literally picks up a nugget. And I'm thinking that if we could do that for all of you folks, and maybe you're smaller than Carlos, maybe you're 10 times bigger than Carlos, it doesn't matter. There's plateaus you're going to go in. I faced one when we had $12 million of revenue. I looked at my team, and man, we were a great sales and marketing organization. We could sell. And Kevin, you were part of that. You gave my people skills, right? And we were selling, and I realized I didn't own a business. I owned a sales and marketing organization. And there is a huge difference. I wasn't running a good business. I would just sell more, right? It didn't matter what I just sell more. You just sell more. And I realized the industry was changing, and that's when I wrote Choices and Chances and how we were going to change the way we were going to do business. And I had to look at my COO. I had to look at my CFO. I had to look at my people, and they were really good people, and they got me to a certain level, but I couldn't expand and grow without specific talent. So I went through YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, and met up with Bill Best. Bill Best is a YPOer, and I won't bore you with his resume, but it's impeccable. It's incredible. The guy's a rock star. And I couldn't afford Bill, so we put him on as a consultant for a couple of years until I could afford Bill, and we drastically made changes. We changed our whole operation, all of the way we process business, right? We put in metrics and accountability and held employees accountable and changed everything. And all of a sudden, we started to grow, and we went from 12 to, well, the first year, I think we went back. I think we went from 12 to like 11 or 12, 10. And I was like, what the hell did I do? I brought this high priced guy on, and I'm not growing, I'm losing. But you have to sometimes take back. And that's what the IQL process does, right? It'll take you through things, and then we're there holding your hand through it. Yeah. And Bill did that. He held my hand. I'm like, man, I don't know if I made the right decision here, right? And Bill goes, have patience. This is what's going to happen. And he laid it out. And Bill was like, he called the shot. He was like Babe Ruth, man. He pointed to center field and he did it. And then we went to 14 million and 15 million and 20 million and 25 million and 30 million. And we're still growing today because of a lot of he took the infrastructure and made it very, very strong. Infrastructure when you run a sales and marketing organization. I'm just talking about my story. Yours is different. And remember that you're in IQL because we're going to focus in on you. But my story was that I didn't focus on infrastructure, so it was weak. I built a skyscraper using 2x4s, and I had to go back and put steel in it.
It's interesting that what you're talking about, maybe you don't even realize it, but I bet you do, is you did your own self-analysis of an IQL, and you actually went out and found, you isolated your core problem, and then you took that core problem and found a solution for yourself.
Well, I didn't do it alone. I mean, I had a lot of people help. I mean, I know we're always talking about you and I on this, and I mean, I know you have had mentors and people that have helped you, and that's one of the reasons you want to give back. So I always want to make sure that we're talking about the people that support us.
Yes. But I mean, you finding out that you needed Bill, you needed that infrastructure. I mean, it's been a pretty amazing change over time, but those are the types of experiences when you do them yourself and you live them yourself that you can then take that and use that as the genesis of what the IQL process is today.
Well, I think it also gives you credibility. When I tell a broker like a Carlos that you need to do this, it's because I've done it. Like when we're talking about client acquisition, which is a major problem that a lot of advisors have, and they always put on the IQL sheet is more clients. So we get that a lot, that we have a whole process for that. And I can show them how I used it. In the book, it tells you how some of my failures, it tells some of the successes. And I think it just gives you instant credibility that you've been in the trenches. And I've got the scars to show it, man. When you're a leader, you get arrows in the back all the time, right? You got to be able to strong enough to keep pushing forward and keep moving forward as you take an arrow. Sometimes it's regulatory, sometimes it's this, that, whatever. There's 100 different things that can go wrong in our business, and they will. But how you overcome those will determine the type of person you are, which is most important, and then the type of firm you're building.
C4G is a service-disabled, veteran-owned business. Thank you, Deborah, and all those that have served our great country. You can contact C4G at info@catalystforgrowth.org or call us at 813-454-0557.
Yeah, excellent. Well, this looks like a good point for a break to go into a commercial message. When we come back, I think we should probably isolate what some of those processes are that we actually identify and uncover with the IQL process that we actually help implant into other folks' business, and maybe talk about go deeper into a couple success stories or actual real case examples where the IQL process has helped other people grow their business significantly. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds great. This is Kevin Berwald and John Kalunas. We'll be back the other side of the break.
Welcome back to segment 2 of this podcast. John Kalunas and Kevin Berwald with Catalyst for Growth. We are going over the IQL process, and in the first segment we were talking about kind of the origin of the IQL process, the award that it's won, and some of the impacts that we've actually had by utilizing that process and what it does. The main thing that we're asking for those listening today is to, challenge you to go to our website at Catalyst, spelled out, the numeral 4, growth, spelled out, .org, Catalyst, the number 4, growth.org, and look for that impact analysis form where you can fill it out and think about what the top 3 obstacles are for you achieving your goals, and then get that back to us so that we can help you achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that. So when you send that form in, what the staff does is it gets us in front of Kevin and I. We will take a look at that and have a joint call. Kevin and I talk every day. We'll have a joint call about that and see which one of us has the better skill set to help and shepherd you through that process. We'll set up a follow-up call with you after we get the sheet and sort of go through what we're thinking out loud. And then you'll get a customized proposal afterwards that'll have the action items that we're going to help you with, along with what we would charge you to do that. Some of it would be free, most likely. Other stuff, we will put a charge depending on how heavy the lift is. And then we do an item that put together a spreadsheet and sort of with tasks that are listed to make your goal and make your IQL, find a resolution for those headaches. We do a spreadsheet that's dated. We both sign off on it. Both as in you and Kevin and I. And we put a calendar to it, and we start working towards those goals and implementation. And I think that's what the key is. So we're going to work almost as fast as you can. So we have the resources to do it, and we have the desire to help people. So that's sort of the process sort of laid out.
Yeah, not uncommon also for someone else in the organization to reach out to you first.
Yeah.
To make sure that, one of the things you find about John and I, and we recommend you do the same thing, is, and I've already said this a couple times, but we can't want something for you more than you want it for you. And we just will not and won't chase people around. We want people who are engaged and really want to affect their business and are willing to be proactive. So now let's segment from that into, which by the way is all good stuff, holding each other accountable, and we can't waste each other's time. We got to make sure we're all hitting our bogeys and doing what we need to do. But the next thing we were talking about is kind of list out, Kevin, you send us this form, or John, we send you a form, and we've listed out what the problems are. And we talked earlier about covering core issues, because if you can cover the core problem and create a process, so let me go back to that word, and create a process that can be installed into the firm to solve that problem, you're also going to eliminate a lot of the symptoms that are causing you issues as well. You also proactively head off a lot of problems that could potentially arise as you grow your business. So the interesting thing about how we think is we're looking at what you're doing right now, but we take a little longer time horizon view out than most people do. What we find is that, sales professionals or people running a business, some of them really are visionaries, but if you're a solo practitioner, you can only see so far into the future. You just can't get past that next quarter, maybe even 9 months to a year out, because you're so focused on all the day-to-day activities. We recognize how difficult it is to run a business, and the way that you can circumvent not having to get additional staff all the time, or maybe merge with another business, is to put processes in place. Processes are critical, implementable, they can be documented, and somebody can walk into your business and see that you have a process, and if it is documented, then that actually creates a pretty strong value proposition if you decide to sell your business one day, because those structures and processes are what create extra multiples from the core of your revenue because it makes it sustainable.
Kevin, we'll do a whole podcast on time management and how we really look at the value of your time. That's, again, the one commodity. Time is the one thing you can never get back, right? That's what we should really try to do. We try to become more efficient to save time, and that's what these processes will do. All of these processes are meant to make you more efficient, give you more time. What you do with that time is on your own decision. If it's going to be with family, if it's going to be on your hobbies and your passions, if it's going to be on building your business, that's all on you. But when you're a smaller practitioner or a boutique, you're trying to do everything from being the portfolio manager, the chief bottle washer, everything, and you just don't have time. So with these processes, we can make your business much more efficient. Ken, why don't you talk about a list? I mean, I don't want to bore everybody with there's over 50 processes we can help people with. So why don't you just go through a smattering of 10 or so and talk a little bit about them and how they will be able to help people in their business and some of the things that we look at. And that after you send that form in, the key thing is when Kevin and I sit down on the phone with you, because it's a fact finder. You do it with clients, right? We want to understand your temperature. We want to understand where things are at. And then after we look at what you've written down and after we talk with you, we can have a pretty good idea of where you want to go. And then there's sometimes that the advisors want to come in and see us and book a half a day. There's sometimes that we'll come to them depending on what it is. It's a large group. Kevin and I do public speaking and stuff for groups. So if it's an agency or if it's a producer group, we can come out or work with leadership teams. But depending on how you want to interact with us, we'll define all that in the proposal. But the key is filling out the form and then that call with Kevin and I, because then that's where the rubber hits the road and we can get a really good feeling of who you are, what you want to be, and how we can get you there.
Yeah, you got to be understood. We need to understand before we take action, right? Just like a doctor would. So let's
Dr. Berwald.
Dr. Berwald, I like it.
Yeah, I think you might like it, but Dr. Berwald I don't see that unless it's either your children, Zach or Josh do it. It's not going to be you.
That's hilarious. So let's talk about the process. Keep ourselves on time. Another 9 minutes or so of this podcast before we're done. So as I list these off, think about them for yourself. If you know what your kind of problem is right now, maybe one of these hits right away. And you want to jot those down. That's something you want to talk about. So one of the first processes, obviously, is, and it's not always brought up, but it's the actual client interaction. Some people call it a sales process or an advisory process, but that's a process that has 3 segments to it. It's setting the stage so you're prepared for your interaction when you're with a potential client or with a client. The ask, listen, and find part of it, where you're learning to ask the right questions, to listen, find problems that actually work with the sales process, and then the end of that is closing and asking for the business. I really think one of the weakest places we find in the business with sales acumen is that people don't know how to comfortably, suitably, and appropriately ask for the sale.
Kevin, I couldn't agree with you more. I jump out of my skin when I watch young advisors. And there's this big thing going on that, we're considered G1 advisors. G2 advisors, they're so focused in on the advisory part and they don't want to offend anybody. They think sales and commissions are dirty. And to some degree, their sales practices are dirty. We've seen them out in the marketplace in our career. But you've got to be able to grow your business. So if you don't have a plan and you don't know the science and the art of acquiring a client, you are going to be in a world of hurt because your book dies at anywhere from 3 to 5% a year. And you could have an exemplary service, but guess what? Retirement money gets spent. People die and they leave your practice. Some people may not like your service and go with their brother-in-law, right? So you will lose clients every single year. Father Time wins every battle. So your clients are going to die. And if you're not replenishing those with like clients or clients that have the ability to grow, you are going to have a very stagnant practice. And we see these young advisors that are so uncomfortable just moving people. They all do the assumptive close. And then when the person says they want to think about it and leave, they're done. And so we help people through that.
Yeah, quick insight into that is the reason why people don't know how to ask for the business is they've never set up anything in their dialogue with their client or prospect to actually ask for. How do you ask for something that you haven't actually given them and put in front of them? I know that sounds silly, but that's why we talk so much about dreams and goals. If I can help someone figure out what their dream is in retirement, what it actually looks like, make it less opaque, and then I show them a plan to actually reach that objective, I now have something to ask for. And the second part is confidence. Younger advisors and salespeople sometimes don't actually believe what they're saying themselves, and they're afraid they're going to get found out. And so they won't even ask because they're afraid of asking, knowing that they haven't even done a good job of presenting something to ask.
We help with the visualization of the practice and the business and the best day, the goal that the client has. And we're just coming up here on the Olympics. And one of the things they always do, they always manifest the vision of them winning, right? My son went through it at IMG. They had a whole training class on how to visualize success. We help the advisor do that. And it's having them ask for something, that end goal, to help that client get to that end goal that you're helping visualizing. Yeah. We've got tons of information. Yeah.
We can do 3 podcasts
on that
alone.
But, we will.
But the closing part is just the biggest thing. The next thing is, prospecting process.
Oh, Kevin, they got me all fired up. Prospecting. So we always have people, well, I have a referral process. Oh, how many referrals you get? 3? You don't have a process. That's a wish list.
2 came from their aunt.
Yeah. So what we do is we look at a referral process. We look at wallet share. How's a process that you deepen your grips in the household? The average household by Sorelli Associates have 4.1, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's over 4 advisors in a household, and everybody's like, no way. Well, you think about it. You've got a banker. You've got your home and auto insurance people. They're trying to sell annuities or life insurance. You've got your HR benefit person, right? They're dealing with your group term, your group life, your 401k, your 403b, whatever it is. You've got the brother-in-law who's at Merrill Lynch for 9 months. You've got all of these different people that are in households, right? And there's many more. Accountants. Even attorneys that carry securities licenses. So, there's all these different pressures in a household. The problem is no one's owning it. So we teach you in the wallet share process how to grab all those assets in the household. It's low cost, and it's a great way to solidify against competition and obviously raise the assets. Client events we talk about for prospecting. Center of influence, how to develop strong center of influence. And so when we say a prospecting process, it is a multitude of different components that build a prospecting system or process that leads to client acquisition.
Yeah, and the other thing I find interesting is how people don't have specific 1 or 2 or 3 primary target markets that they can actually convey who they are. If I ask you what's your primary target market, how often people can't actually describe it, which leads right to the biography process. We help people build professional biographies as a referral tool. This is by far what I spend the most amount of time talking about. It always falls into this because people have not figured out the 7 elements that make up a professional biography. I wrote a book on it called How to Get More Referrals in Less Time. It's easy to find on our website, or just go to Amazon and type in Kevin Berwald. My books will pop up. But there's 7 elements in a biography process, and helping someone walk through them and think about them helps them begin to be able to put in writing how they want to convey themselves to someone who meets them for the first time, and create this document that transfers the perfect package of information that you want to transfer to someone so they perceive you exactly the way you want to be perceived, and gives them the energy and inclination to want to contact you to do business. Biography processes are so strong.
Yeah, and if you don't do it right, it's a disaster. I looked at one yesterday, or maybe it was probably yesterday or the day before, and had in there that they were 6-time President's Club winner, and that they had these licenses. Well, you know what? The consumer doesn't want to be sold.
And they don't care.
And they don't care. They don't know what President's Club is. And yeah, it is an accomplishment for yourself, right? It's a milestone for yourself. But it's not anything that anyone gives a rat's tail about except for you, your branch manager, and your wife. And so those are the type of things that we teach you that need to be eliminated from our dialogue. And we do that in the building out a process.
Yeah. So the next step is very popular is client process,
which I'm all about, and we'll probably end we'll do several series on that client process. Client process, ladies and gentlemen, is what you should be selling on every interaction. You should be talking to people about your process and how your process differentiates yourself from everybody else. I don't know who's listening to this podcast, but I guarantee you have access to Vanguard just like I do. So if we're competing on Vanguard, what's the degree of separation? There is none. The Vanguard you buy is the same one I do. So what we need to do is talk about our services, the end process, how we work a client to go from the beginning of our relationship all the way through attaining their goal, and how every year we're going to go through this process to make sure the probability of getting their end goal increases dramatically by working with us. And as soon as we establish ourselves as we are the center of helping them get their goals, competition is gone, price is irrelevant, and you uphold your fiduciary duty of taking care of them, and you've built a hell of a practice. And then it's rinse, wash, repeat, and doing it over and over again. But you sell your process. You don't sell investments. You don't sell anything else but your process. And the good advisors do it every day. The bad advisors don't even know the process. And I shouldn't say they're bad. They just don't know yet. And that's one of the things we help educate them off the IQL form.
And it's interesting that the industry studies consistently say from consumers in financial services or a similar business what they are looking for and what they want. One, they want to have help defining their goals of what they can actually achieve in their life financially. And number two, they want to know that you have a process to get them to be able to attain it. That process is the client process. The clients want it. People don't have it dictated. And everybody who's talking about especially non-tangible sales or non-tangible transfer of product or information or service has to have a documented client process down that says this is how we help you get where you're going. That is a differentiator.
Yeah, they can find that online, but they can't do it with a color. They can't do it with the emphasis and the passion that you do. That's one of the things we teach about the client process, is outlining that and making sure that energy is put into the right spots of that process to help compel people to work with you and continue to work with you. And the ultimate goal that Kevin and I want is to have your clients be advocates for you. Once we do that, then we're big time.
Yeah, then you'll forget about us until we remind you.
Yeah, and we will, because we're sort of irritating.
Yeah, we're like that. So anyway, just to cut down the time because we're running short, I'll just mention a few other processes. We'll talk about them in the future, but referral processes, client segmentation process. How about client onboarding process? How do you, client review processes, client event processes? And here's one a lot of people don't think about: offboarding processes. How do I both fire employees and fire clients that I don't want anymore? So these are just some of the processes that are popular with what we do.
Yeah, and let's talk about when people hear process, and I know we're running out of time, but when people hear processes, they think it's very rigid. And they think it's a step, and it's very awkward to go from step 1 to now we're going to step 3. That's not how we teach it. That's not how we'll help you with it. It is a flow. It is a flow, and that's the art of what we do. Remember, the science we do is the alpha, the beta, the standard deviation, right? The art is making people feel special, how you're helping them, right? The art is making sure that they know you care. The art is making sure you're conveying your authenticity. That's what's important. So we'll cover this in future podcasts. Kevin and I will be again beyond next week. We have another podcast for next week. We hope you'll join us. But this is Kevin Berwald. Well, Kevin's giving me the one finger sign, so hold on. Thought we were out of here.
We can't forget the most important thing.
What is the most important thing, Kevin?
Well, second, two things. First, I want to comment on what you just said, because I would just remember that your clients and prospects will very seldom remember anything you said. But I just had to add this in based on what John said. They won't remember what you said or what you talked about, but you know what they will always remember? How they felt. And how they felt will dictate whether or not you're going to have a long-term relationship and whether or not they can convey to other referrals how they felt if it was positive. They'll say that. So just killer thing. So
that's a pearl. That's a last minute nugget. You pulled the Columbo. I had the hand on the door and you pulled it back, and you're one more thing.
That's right. But the most important thing is we always want to start with giving you the opportunity to implement something in your practice today that you can actually use. And that is going to our website, catalystforgrowth.org, getting that impact analysis form, filling it out. Even if you don't give it to us, at least take the time to fill it out and think through what your dream goal is and what those questions are and what those impediments are. Go somewhere else if you don't want to go to us or work with us, but do it for yourself so that you can actually, like John did when he grew his business and hired Bill way back when, that catapulted him into where he is today, you might have a similar experience. So now go ahead.
Wow. You got 2 pearls at the end. There's at least 3 pearls in this podcast. Good job, Kevin Berwald. So this is John Kalunas II and Kevin Berwald. We're going to bid you a fair adieu today, and we will see you next week or talk to you next week, and we'll be talking about probably client process, I believe.
Or bio process.
Well, you know what? Let's do the bio, because the bio comes before the client. So good call. We'll do the bio. We'll do the bio process next week, which is very powerful and a must-have for everybody. And the way we bucket that, or way we pitch it, is we have the bio on one side and the client process on the other. So
that's right.
The next one will be after bio, client process. So again, thank you for listening. We look forward to spending time with you next week.
Have a profitable day.
Hey, thank you for your time today. We will have another content-packed session posted next week. Please check our website, catalystforgrowth.org, for our legal disclosures on the bottom of our homepage, if you're into that sort of thing.